2 years ago, I made my last video on the disgustingly made game, Boys and Girls Hangout.
I literally just stopped recording.
Yeah, I know.
Wait, are you recording it?
Yeah, we are. You know what I say, Alex? For a long time, I have not been playing that game due to the community slowly dying because of a certain individual who changed everything. Rifia. Rifia was one of the 3 owners of Dark 1020's account, the one that made Boys Girls Hangout. And basically, Rifia had the ingenious idea of removing all good admins and adding toxic new ones. But after 2 years of not playing, I came back to realize that a new Dark has basically turned into the molten copy of Rifia. Now, before we actually get into this entire video, I want to address the entire story, from my perspective at least, of how the game has changed by adding admin, and how it has made the game fall, rise, and now, today, is starting to fall once again. It all started back in late 2016. An update came out for the game, so Dominic and I joined ASAP. But when we joined, we met the original creator himself, the first Dark 1020. On the same day, Heck had a nice chat with Dark and they became friends. Heck was then crowned the first admin on Boys and Girls Hangout. I did become a moderator and so did my other friends, but, and let's just say, I was a horrible moderator, dude. Dark used to talk to Dom and I about the game on Skype, but then that quickly ended because around a week later, the account was taken over by someone named Rifia. He gave out administrator to other people and gave owner to his girlfriend Cyphia. One day, Cyphia had unadmined everyone on the list, so it was just Rifia and her. Then a month later, she has given admin to toxic players that ruined the game's reputation. I would say this is basically when the game began its downfall. Players stopped playing the game, Rifia wasn't speaking up, the community has died. And then from that day forward, my friends and I never played it since. 2 years later, on August 6th of 2018, I came back to the game to see how bad the game has become. There was no substance that kept the game alive. The average people that played the game was around 20 people, and you had to pay for administrator. It was just awful. Dom was with me on that day, and surprisingly, a new Dark has arose into the scene. This Dark was actually friends with Dom before the takeover of the account anyways. Dom got super admin on that day, and the game was reverted back to the OG days. And the next day, I was given admin. After this all happened, the game has increased in people playing, and that was a good thing. However, the same effect of Rifia struck this new Dark. He became silent to others, didn't take in information and use it, and didn't want to speak up. He gave 2 idiots owner, and one of them, named Revenge Storm, removed all admins and mods. Why? Because there were too many. Now, why was talking about the history of the fall and rise and now present fall of the game have to do with this video anyways? Well, I think it's necessary to bring the fact that the community and player base as a whole is negatively impactful to light. It is so that not only a small group, if not a large group of people, can become more aware of what is actually occurring within this game, even if it's a common thing among the Roblox community as a whole. But with all that being said and out of the way, let's talk about the admin problem. To start off, let's use a good example clip right here.
They're turning it up.
I said to this owner was that he was doing was unfair and basically abusive. So what happened was there was another person kept asking him for admin, and he kept saying no. Eventually he muted him and then said, if you ask admin again, you're getting kicked. Where I butted in and said, kicking without reason is abusive. He kept avoiding my criticisms and eventually he muted me for a minute. That in and of itself is abusive, and here's why. The reason for him to mute me was because I was arguing against an owner about a bad decision he made. Even though my argument stood up on its own 2 feet, he still attempted to refute and muted me out of insecurity. Hell, I even make a joke about it in the clip. Okay, let's go to a different problem. Playing music through the game in and of itself is ridiculous. Why? Because A, you cannot turn it off, B, disturbs other people, and C, is loud as hell.
Dude, this fucking hobo.
Memes, yeah.
It's that hobo.
It's like a hobo
Obi-Wan
Skywalker
Kenobi.
over here.
Gives me conniptions.
Not being able to actually stop the music is annoying in of itself. The music can also disturb those who are trying to play their own music, and is just being so ear-piercingly loud is honestly just bombastic in and of itself. The last problem recorded on this video is this.
I'm gonna get my B11 Strike Force out.
Countdown 10. Are you fucking kidding me? Did you seriously do that?
I bet it's tags.
The moron gave everyone a sword. Damn.
Now the event itself is quite ridiculous. What they were doing is that you were given a sword and you were to kill a bunch of people, and if you won, like the last one standing, you would get admin. The problem with this is just the reward, giving admin without consulting the actual owner of the game. This problem goes for every administrator on any game or group in general. Giving someone admin without talking to the owner is considered abuse due to the fact that the person could possibly have little to no experience with administrating. This assumption is due to the player base that is clearly a tad bit immature and young. Not that that is a really too big of an issue, considering the fact that there is a lot of significantly wealthy and experienced players on the game as well. But that does not exclude the fact that they are immature, because some of it, if not the majority, are indeed immature. And giving these players administrator abilities ruins the average player's experience, mainly due to the idea that they'll either abuse or distract the player from what the game is actually about: hanging out. When an attention-seeking admin or mod makes themselves really big and gets sparkles on their torsos, it basically makes them a playground for the players, making them ask for admin or mod. And when it comes to, and I quote, begging for mod like a peasant, it isn't their fault in this sense. If you're putting yourself out there like Marvel Studio, then it might as well be expected. With all that being said, there is a good way to make the system of administrators more unique and not a bobbling mess like Ninja's admins.
Just like start with like a 24-hour ban, and then just go straight to.
Best way to deal with giving admin is give admin to people who follow a certain standard. Make sure that the user in which desires administrative abilities follows a certain yet reasonable standard. Be aware of their personality and how they deal with situations pertaining to things such as criticism and negativity while in this game. If an admin cannot deal with something maturely, they are deemed unworthy in a specific abilities that allow them to affect the game. Users like 16AKK have made small mistakes, but made up for it with maturity. Mistakes are forgivable, but being a completely admin abusive badman twat is not. Instant demotion is recommended for people who cannot follow the simplest of rules. This is called, it was an accident. It really wasn't that they just really want to use M in size 2. For example, if a troll or any user at all makes fun of an admin, that is straight up disrespectful towards an administrator. But does that mean you can instantly kick, mute, or ban them? Hell no. It means that you can inform them on what it is they're doing wrong. In this case, they're being rude to someone who hopefully is trying to help as much as they can dealing with negativity and exploiters slash hackers. Another example is when people are having virtual intercourse in the game space. In this case, you need to wait until they actually do something until you can crack down on them. What is recommended is that you ask them to stop. If they do it again, it's up to you whether to initiate a punishment or not. I would give them one more chance, but that is irrelevant. Abusing rule breakers is not deemed responsible in any way, except if they're exploiting, because then they're trying to ruin the game in general. Unless it's like a fun thing, then it doesn't really matter, but the admin should still not condone or allow it. One last example is when someone is arguing with another individual in the game space. In this instance, one must realize the situation before stepping in. Constant and strong negativity should not be allowed in the game space. If someone is arguing with another player, allow it, that's completely fine. But if it gets too far and out of hand to the point to where other players are indubitably affected, then it becomes an issue. It also becomes an issue when one player starts throwing strong, controversial, and personal results at the other player. This can cause emotional stress, not in the real world, but for a small bit of time. The last thing you want is a player being rather upset in the game. And for instance that I cannot prove to be true unfortunately, occurred recently and caught by my attention. A female claimed that her father died during an argument with a troll. The troll then said, "Good." Obviously, there's a chance that the girl's dad wasn't actually dead at all. But you can never know that. Even if the chances are likely that she never experienced something like that, again, you can never actually know. In this case, you need to mute the troll and tell him to chill and stop communication with the girl. But you cannot be biased. In this case, you wouldn't know why the argument started, and what caused it practically is irrelevant at this point. What you need to do is tell the girl as well to stop communicating with this troll. You can unmute both if you decide them to mute both or one of them, and hope that they will be on their way. If they refuse to follow your orders and continue to cause discord, then it is up to you whether to warn them again or mute them. Kicking and muting shall only be necessary in specific situations. Buzzle, on the other hand, muted me, Cameron Spencer D, because he refuted and was then flung because Bizzle is mega gay, Lamau. Anyways, kicking should be done if the player is doing physical action or somehow bypassing a mute. Muting will be done if the offense is caused within the chat. Banning is for people who continuously offend after a kick or mute over and over and show no sign of stopping. And with all that being said, if this game does follow this path of growth and maturity of the mods and admins, it would be a more positive and less toxic place to play on. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a bit different from what I usually make, but this had to be brought up, especially since the majority of my audience sprung from my videos on this game. And if any of the people that I mentioned in this video are watching, take this video with a side of salt, would ya? Anyways, my name is Cameron, and I'll talk to you all next time. Hello, Isaacs. Thank you for joining us today. Would you mind answering a few questions?
No, I wouldn't mind. Go ahead.
Okay, what are your thoughts on the admin situation?
Is that even a fucking question?
Okay, thank you for joining us this fine evening. Have a great day.